Idea City. Ideas change the world.
Bob Richards is a founder of the International Space University. He runs a company that makes weather stations for Mars and is a front runner in the competition to become the first trucker to the moon. Bob Richards.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Moses. I don't know if it was an accident that I was sandwiched between two such incredible people who represent different parts of inspiration that have influenced me as an individual. Jill Tarter, who does what she does because of her infinite patience, and Peter Diamandis, who does what he does because of his infinite impatience. What brought me into the realm of space technology really was Carl Sagan. I was an orphan of Apollo. You know, I had great expectations of what I would live to see and do in space based on what I saw as a kid with Apollo. Orphan of Apollo. I was mesmerized by Carl Sagan's Cosmos TV series to the point that I was absolutely infatuated to the point that I needed to be taught by this incredible individual, and wound up incredibly privileged to wind up being one of Carl's students and special assistants at Cornell University, where I was taught by incredible people like Frank Drake, who pioneered SETI, and all the rest of it. So it's that enormous wonderment of the universe that first drew me into space. And it was really Carl I blame for with my passion about Mars. And as Moses has mentioned, we Canadians have now, for the very first time, achieved planetary presence outside the Earth in the landing of the NASA Phoenix Mars lander, where my company and other people around Canada have produced a weather station using lasers that if you can't start the day without finding out what the weather is on Mars, you can now go to the weather network and click on Mars. You can see what the temperature is right now, every day. I think today it's sunny with dusty periods. So in a sense, landing on Mars, you know, it was a 4 or 5 year program, developing a technology, flying it. That launched last October 4th, that mission. We in Canada had done most of our job already quite a long time before that, perhaps a year. So in my mind, about a year or two ago, when I was thinking about Mars, and, you know, and now it's kind of been there and now done that, my passion and my vision started to migrate towards the moon. And with the announcement of the Google Lunar X Prize, and I'll take you a little bit through the history of that, it really galvanized this sense of what would be the next step that humanity should take towards the cosmos. You know, there's this wonderment and the bewilderment and the attraction of the stars. But there's also, you know, let's do something about it. Let's actually get out there and start creating the infrastructures, the technologies, and the presence, and start embracing space and other planets into the human psyche and economic sphere. And the moon is the next step towards that. It was in 2004 that the idea of prizes was introduced to space by our brilliant Peter Diamandis, who will be telling you much more about that after me. And it was that, you know, the galvanizing sense of Spaceship One gloriously penetrating the upper atmosphere and going into space that inspired a whole new revolution in the people's thoughts about personal spaceflight. We can go too. It's about us. And it was that model that led, of course, to the awarding of the $10 million prize to Burt Rutan, the winner of that competition, and eventually the X Prize to announce the next challenge of the X Prize in space, which is the Google Lunar X Prize. Now, having been thinking about the moon and how that is such an important artifact of trying to reach and try to embrace that in the economic sphere, I've been working on some business plan concepts to formulate a company to do just that, provide commercial private access, lower the cost of access to the moon, and hopefully help along that way of providing humanity a next step towards the stars. Our prime contractor, MDA, we proudly are moving forward with to introduce new technologies to provide a new robotic system that will provide reliable, low-cost, and frequent access to the surface of another world where we can start experimenting. We hope to do that as a private company and allow scientists, students, and privateers to explore and utilize the moon. Commercial customers, we already have 2 signed up, ready to go. We're hoping that our private-public customers there'll be enough mass public appeal that we'll be bringing in sort of a blockbuster event that people galvanize to watch. And through the Google Lunar X Prize, and now there are 13 other teams that are competing, it's going to be a worldwide event. We know what happened in 2004 We know what happened when Spaceship One flew to Earth, and it was the biggest story since the capture of Saddam Hussein in that year. My gosh. Wait till what happens when Google gets involved and we do this on the moon. It's going to be phenomenal. It'll be worldwide. Absolutely. We're already getting mass media attention. Everybody, all the teams, through the power of the X Prize and knowing how to do it, through the power of Google. We're getting, this month, we're on the front page of Popular Mechanics. CNN is covering us. But it's not just about playing and exploring, it's about doing leading edge science. You know, it's about the increase of human knowledge. And because going to the moon is really, really hard, you know, we're trying to do as a private small company what superpowers did back in the 60s. But we're trying to do it in a way that delivers both science, technology, and commercial opportunity so the three can coexist in a business plan that can provide continual presence on the moon. We want to go first to a place that's on the near side of the moon, near areas that we think might have really important resources, and try and prospect there. And if we find high-grade ore, perhaps that will induce some more investment and interest from planet Earth. We're going to prospect for the resources, and we're going to present, I hope, a space odyssey to humanity, not unlike we experienced with our dear friend Arthur Clarke. Odyssey Moon is very much connected to the idea of a space odyssey where there is enormous inspiration to be gained, but there's also enormous utility on the moon and other planets, and I think the moon is the next place to go. So that's really what I've come to talk to you about tonight, is the enormous activity going on of trying to create a multi-planet species, the inspiration of the Google Lunar X Prize, of my own company and 13 others, vying for the first private team to reach the surface of the planet and to change people's minds about the moon, as the first X Prize changed people's minds about personal spaceflight. And I hope that by 2011, we'll be looking on lights up on the moon that are coming not from government spacecraft, but from private spacecraft, and that through a partnership of public and private sector, we'll utilize what we do in the next few years and establish a permanent base on the moon and go towards establishing colonies there and elsewhere. Thank you very much.